If you were presented with a cushion damage like this, you might say, "What do you expect me to do with that?" And that's what I said. Initially, we might think, what about a subpatch? Yes, but what about all of this ragged cloth? Maybe we could add a piece of vinyl to cover all of the damage, the vinyl and the cloth. That's never been done. Okay, let's do that. So, to get started, I'm measuring and then cutting a piece of vinyl that will completely hide the damage. Of course, we have the luxury on this cushion of having the zipper on the back so we can remove the cover, and that will give us an easy access to attaching our piece of vinyl. I'm going to take care to make sure that I've got this positioned really nicely for the optimum aesthetic look in the end. And of course, my goal here is to add vinyl, which will do two things. Number one, it will add the structure and support that was originally there. And B, it will maintain the dimensions of this boxing around the cushion. Of course, the part where the cloth is never seen once the cushion is installed on the couch. I've decided to use a zigzag stitch because it will bring the edge of our patch down to the cover. This is where you leave the needle in the material, lift the foot so that you can spin the material around and then sew down the next side. By the way, the purpose of this cloth panel, which is always out of sight, is to allow this cushion to breathe because air will move in and out of there freely. And of course, we're not really impeding that by reinforcing it with this small piece of vinyl. If it looks like I'm taking my time with this, yes I am, because this is critical. I want this panel to stand up nice and straight when I'm done, and I don't want any wrinkles on account of having misaligned something. And there, I'm pretty happy with that positioning on there. So as I'm prepping here, my next goal is to bevel these edges. And so I'm going to melt down these edges. Of course, as you can see, the stitching has already held the edges down quite tightly. And I'm going to use the ironing method, not that paper. Let's pick a different one. We're going to use the ironing method here to flatten this transition. And as always, when using the iron, especially the first application, do peek under the paper as I did right there, just to make sure that it's cured. And if it's not, just go back and reheat it. We have discussed this process before, so we're going to move right along here, one step after another. We're targeting just the edge this one time around. It's looking pretty good. Don't forget, the paper lets us have a visual on the amount of heat we're putting on, so that if we can dwell for maybe 15 to 20 seconds even per application without browning the paper, we know we've got good penetration of our heat through our repair material. And that's key. So the paper is, in essence, like a thermometer for us through the ironing process. Of course, it's helping to flatten out that seam where one vinyl overlaps the other and where that stitching is present. So now I'm following up with the heat gun. It's very typical for me to use the heat gun and graining pad method following the ironing method. Sometimes I get asked, what should you do about the ring that's around the ironing repair? Well, the heat gun takes care of that. You have a wider dispensing of heat, and the graining pad takes care of the rest. So the ironing method and the heat gun method give you that 1-2 punch that finishes the boxing around the cushion. See what I did there? Out of my van, I've picked the closest color to the cover that I could find, and you see here it's a little bit light. But as you dab the guide coat color on, you're in the middle of your repair and you can be thinking about how am I going to adjust this color when I get finished with the repair. So that's a mental process that's ongoing while you're repairing. As you can see, it's light, so we're going to plan on making it darker. In fact, what I've done is I've made it darker, and the darker color was lacking some of the red oxide and yellow that was characteristic of the color, so I've made a second color that has the red and the yellow in it. This is a two-tone print, although most customers never ever see that until you point that out. Now, as you noticed here, there's a little recessed area, and the iron is not doing that justice. So I'm going to use the graining pad there, and as you can see with the chill bar, it still didn't work. So we need to dispense with the chill bar and get our finger impressions down either side of that stitch line in order to get that grain down in there. And now a little extra guide coat will show us our progress, and we're looking pretty good here on this transition. Now, even though this black part here where the cloth is and this black vinyl is never going to be seen once it's installed, I do want to finish it out just for the neatness factor. If people see that your work is neat, they learn to trust you. They learn to trust your judgment. So I'm just dabbing a little bit of black coloring that I also had in the van on hand, just to make all that look neat. It would have been nicer had I used some black stitching, but I was too lazy to change it since it was all going to be hidden anyway. So we went with the red thread. Yeah, so I'm going to mask that off, and then we can spray now the color that we've corrected. And what we're going to do here is just get ready and spritz this color on using a Preval sprayer. It's just a small area. And one thing that oh, by the way, we do want to prep over top of our heat-cured compounds on account of the plasticizer we've driven to the surface. As I was going to say, we're going to use the Preval sprayer because we can spritz it and create the design of the overlapping colors. We'll put the dark color, and then we'll put the color that has the more red and yellow in it, and we'll just keep alternating those. There's no rule to this. Use your judgment. Dry down between applications so you can see what the true color representation is, and just keep alternating those colors or those paints as you need to in order to hide. And you can blend a little ways away from your repair too with some light spritzes with the pre-val sprayer, and that'll help to detract from the repair itself. So you see just little individual spritzes here and there. Not a solid coating of color because you want the two colors to go on there side by side and some overlapping to give it that mottled or antique look that comes in that finish originally. And of course we have a cross linker in here. The cross linker and the heat that we're setting this with will give us our durability. Without those two elements, we really risk that not being a strong finish at all. And there is our finished product. Now for the installation. So the job is not over until you have to wrestle with the cushion for a little bit. Get on there, you little... Stop. Come on. Would you just behave? Come on, get... Don't make me... Why, you little weasel. For the love of what's righteous, just get on there. Would you get up in that corner? Just lay down there, right, would you? Oh, just... Oh, goodness. Would you get up in that corner already? Come on. Oh, now what's wrong with the zipper? Don't tell me. Ah. Jerk. Come on. Oh.